Joe is the first person that I play every single song that I write.
Well, Joe and I really love sad songs. Joe. We just really love sad songs. What can I say?
For years, Taylor Swift's relationships have made headlines around the world. Every public appearance, every song lyric, every rumored romance has been analyzed by millions of fans. So when news of her marriage spread across social media and entertainment outlets, one thing seemed inevitable: people expected reactions from everyone connected to her past. On to congratulations poured in from celebrities, friends, fellow musicians, and fans across the globe. Social media exploded with photos, headlines, and emotional messages celebrating the moment. It looked like just another unforgettable chapter in one of the biggest careers in modern pop culture. But then something unexpected happened. One person never said a word, no Instagram post, no interview, no congratulatory message, no public statement, and almost immediately people started asking the same question. No? Why was Taylor Swift's ex completely silent? Was it simply respect for a former relationship? Was it a deliberate decision to stay away from the spotlight? Or was the internet reading far too much into something that wasn't unusual at all? The silence itself quickly became part of the story. Within hours, fans on social media began sharing screenshots, comparing timelines, and refreshing accounts, wondering if a reaction would eventually appear. Entertainment pages picked up the conversation, and online discussions grew larger by the minute. Interestingly, no dramatic incident had actually taken place. There was no public argument, no criticism, no controversy. Yet in today's celebrity culture, silence can sometimes generate more headlines than words ever could. That's exactly what happened here. For years, Taylor Swift's personal life has existed under an enormous spotlight. Every relationship has been documented, discussed, and often transformed into global headlines. Because of that history, many fans naturally became curious about how people from her past would respond to such an important milestone. But curiosity and facts aren't always the same thing. While thousands of posts online tried to explain the silence, very few actually offered evidence. Instead, countless theories began circulating across social media, each one attempting to answer a question nobody involved had publicly addressed. Some believed the silence represented maturity. Others argued it showed respect. A few insisted there had to be a deeper reason. Nobody publicly connected to the situation had confirmed any specific explanation. That didn't stop the speculation. If anything, the lack of answers only made people even more interested. Because sometimes the biggest celebrity stories aren't created by what someone says. They're created by what they never say at all. And before we can understand why this silence captured so much attention, we first have to go back and understand the relationship itself, how it began, why it fascinated millions of people, and why, years later, fans still connect every major milestone back to that chapter of Taylor Swift's life. Because without that history, none of this silence would have become a story in the first place. To understand why so many people were waiting for a response, we have to go back to the relationship itself. Taylor Swift has never been just another celebrity when it comes to public relationships. Throughout her career, every romance has attracted enormous attention. Fans have followed every public appearance, every red carpet moment, and sometimes even every lyric, searching for clues about her personal life. That intense public interest didn't disappear after those relationships ended. If anything, it only grew stronger. Years later, people still revisit old interviews, compare timelines, and debate what really happened behind the scenes. Whether those theories are accurate or not, they have become part of modern celebrity culture. So when news of Taylor's wedding began dominating entertainment headlines, many fans naturally wondered how people from her past might respond. Genjia not because anyone was expected to make a statement. But because celebrity culture has created an expectation that every major life event deserves a public reaction. Media only amplified that Monday within hours, fans were checking old accounts, searching recent interviews, and refreshing feeds, hoping to see some kind of acknowledgement. Some entertainment pages even began asking the question before any actual reaction or lack of one had become significant. That alone helped fuel the conversation. But here's something many people overlooked. Not every celebrity chooses to comment on their former relationships. In fact, remaining silent is often the most common response. Can't many public figures intentionally avoid discussing past partners out of respect, privacy, or simply because they want to avoid creating another media cycle? Unfortunately, silence rarely stays silent on the internet. Instead, it often becomes a blank space that millions of people rush to fill with their own theories. And some fans interpreted the lack of a public message as a sign of maturity, others believed it was simply professional courtesy. And of course, there were those convinced that the silence had to mean something much bigger. But none of those ideas came with public confirmation. What made this situation so fascinating wasn't what had been said. It was how quickly people began creating explanations without any verified evidence. That's the strange reality of modern celebrity culture. Sometimes one unanswered question can generate more discussion than an actual interview, and the longer that question remains unanswered, the bigger the story becomes. Bolda's entertainment channels continued covering Taylor Swift's wedding. Attention slowly shifted away from the celebration itself and toward the reactions surrounding it. Or, in one particular case, the complete lack of one. And that's when online detectives began looking back at the history between Taylor and her former partner, trying to understand whether the silence carried any hidden meaning, or whether millions of people were simply overanalyzing an ordinary decision to stay private. Because once the internet starts searching for answers, even the smallest detail can suddenly become headline news. One of the biggest reasons this story gained so much attention had very little to do with Taylor Swift herself. It had everything to do with the way modern celebrity news works. Years ago, a celebrity could celebrate a major life event, receive congratulations from friends, and move on. Today, every post, every comment, and even every absence is watched by millions of people in real time. When someone well-known doesn't publicly react to a major event, many fans immediately notice. But noticing something and knowing what it means are two very different things. In Taylor Swift's case, her personal life has been closely followed for years. Because of that, every new chapter naturally brings renewed attention to previous ones. Fans often revisit old interviews, photographs, performances, and headlines, looking for connections that may, or may not, exist. That's exactly what happened after news of her wedding spread. Across social media, countless users began asking similar questions. Had anyone from Taylor's past responded? Were there public congratulations? Had anyone mentioned the news during an interview? Those questions quickly became part of the online conversation. However, despite all the discussion, there was very little verified information suggesting that anyone's silence carried a specific meaning. Entertainment reporters generally rely on public statements, official representatives, interviews, or confirmed sources. Without those, any explanation for someone's silence remains speculation rather than fact. That distinction is important. In today's social media environment, theories can travel much faster than verified information. A single viral post can reach millions of people before anyone asks whether its claims are actually supported by evidence. For viewers, that creates an interesting challenge. Should silence always be interpreted as a message? Or is it sometimes simply silence? Many public figures choose not to comment on former relationships out of respect for privacy, a desire to avoid unnecessary headlines, or because they simply prefer not to revisit the past publicly. Those decisions are common across the entertainment industry and, by themselves, don't reveal someone's feelings or intentions. Yet the internet often searches for deeper meaning, and that's why this story became bigger than a single missing reaction. It became a conversation about how celebrity culture has changed, where every word, every emoji, and sometimes even every moment of silence can become part of the news cycle. But as the online discussion continued, another question began to emerge. If there was no confirmed explanation for the silence, why were so many people convinced? There had to be one. That question would push the conversation even further, revealing just how powerful fan communities and social media narratives have become in shaping modern celebrity headlines. By this point, the conversation had moved far beyond Taylor Swift's wedding itself. The spotlight was now on something far less tangible: a missing public reaction. But here's where celebrity culture often takes an interesting turn. When information is limited, speculation usually fills the gap. Within days, social media platforms were flooded with theories. Some users claimed the silence reflected respect. Others suggested it was simply a decision to stay out of the headlines. A few even argued there had to be a hidden reason. The problem? None of those explanations were publicly confirmed. That's an important distinction because, in entertainment reporting, verified facts and online theories are not the same thing. Major entertainment outlets typically rely on public statements, official representatives, or on-the-record interviews before drawing conclusions. Without those sources, it's impossible to know why someone chose not to comment. In reality, many celebrities avoid responding to stories involving former relationships. Speaking publicly can easily create new headlines, spark unnecessary debates, or shift attention away from the people actually celebrating an important moment. Choosing not to comment can simply be a professional decision. Yet online audiences often expect every silence to carry a hidden message. That expectation says just as much about today's social media culture as it does about the celebrities themselves. Every major event now unfolds in real time. Millions of people watch, react, and share opinions within minutes. Algorithms reward mystery, debate, and unanswered questions, causing even ordinary moments to become viral conversations. That's exactly what happened here. The discussion wasn't driven by confirmed facts. It was driven by curiosity. And curiosity is one of the most powerful forces on the internet. As more people joined the conversation, the focus slowly shifted away from what was actually known and toward what people imagined might be true. The challenge for viewers and for responsible entertainment reporting is remembering the difference. Because while theories may dominate social media, verified information remains the strongest foundation for understanding any celebrity story. And as the headlines continued to evolve, one final question remained. What does this entire episode reveal about the way we consume celebrity news today? That answer may be even more interesting than the silence that started the conversation. As the story continued to spread online, another pattern began to emerge. Many of the biggest conversations weren't coming from official interviews or verified reports. They were coming from comment sections. Thousands of fans started comparing old photos, revisiting past headlines, and sharing clips from years ago. Some believed they had found clues. Others were convinced that a missing social media post had to mean something significant. But celebrity news doesn't always work that way. A public silence is just that, a public silence. Without a statement from the person involved or someone authorized to speak on their behalf, any explanation remains an assumption rather than a confirmed fact. That hasn't stopped the internet before. In today's digital world, fan communities often build detailed timelines and connect events across many years. Sometimes those observations, other times, they simply reflect the audience's curiosity about people they have followed for a long time. Taylor Swift's career has inspired exactly that kind of attention. Ambience for more than a decade, fans have closely followed her music, public appearances, and major life events. As a result, every new milestone naturally leads people to revisit earlier chapters of her story. Ends. That's why discussions about former relationships often resurface whenever something significant happens. But it's also why responsible reporting matters. Entertainment journalism is strongest when it separates what is known from what is merely being discussed online. In this case, what is known is straightforward. Taylor's wedding became one of the biggest entertainment stories of the moment. It attracted enormous public interest, generated countless reactions, and sparked widespread conversation across social media. What isn't publicly known is why any individual who chose not to comment made that decision. There could be many ordinary explanations, or none beyond a personal preference for privacy. And unless someone speaks publicly, the real reason remains exactly that, unknown. Ironically, that uncertainty may explain why this story captured so much attention. People are naturally drawn to unanswered questions. Sometimes, the mystery becomes bigger than the event itself. And in the world of celebrity news, that can happen in a matter of hours. In the final part of this story, we'll step back from the headlines and look at what this entire episode says about modern fame, social media, and why millions of people become invested in moments that even the people involved may never publicly explain. By now, one thing had become clear: the biggest headline was no longer just the wedding itself, it was the conversation that followed. In today's entertainment industry, audiences don't simply watch celebrity news, they participate in it. Every headline sparks thousands of comments, theories, and debates within minutes. Social media has transformed every major event into a global discussion, where millions of people try to interpret even the smallest details. That's exactly what happened here. A public silence became a trending topic, not because anyone confirmed it carried a special meaning, but because people naturally search. And perhaps that's the most interesting lesson from this entire story. Celebrity culture has changed dramatically over the past decade. Years ago, fans waited for magazine interviews or television appearances to learn what happened next. Today, people refresh Instagram, TikTok, X, and other platforms within seconds, expecting instant reactions from everyone connected to the story. When those reactions don't arrive, the absence itself often becomes the headline. But responsible reporting requires separating public facts from online assumptions. The confirmed story is straightforward. Taylor Swift's wedding became one of the most talked about entertainment events of the year, generating enormous attention across news outlets and social media. Beyond that, many online discussions reflected fan curiosity rather than confirmed information. Sometimes, there simply isn't a dramatic explanation. Sometimes, choosing not to make a public statement is exactly that. A personal choice that remains private. And perhaps that's a reminder that not every unanswered question has a hidden answer, waiting to be discovered. For fans, the mystery may continue. For entertainment media, the conversation will likely move on to the next major headline. Ends. But this moment revealed something bigger than a single celebrity event. It showed how modern audiences consume news, how quickly theories spread online, and why curiosity can turn even an ordinary absence into a worldwide discussion. Whether people viewed the silence as respectful, intentional, or simply unremarkable, one fact remained unchanged. Without a public statement, the reasons behind that silence remain unknown. And sometimes the most talked about story isn't what someone says. It's the story people create while waiting for them to speak. At this point, the discussion had become much bigger than a single wedding. Mongdius, it had become a reflection of how celebrity culture works in the digital age. Every major celebrity event now unfolds in front of millions of people, almost in real time. News breaks within minutes. Photos spread across the internet within. Reactions are shared instantly, and before long, thousands of conversations are happening all at once. In that environment, audiences often expect everyone connected to the story to respond publicly. Friends, family, former colleagues, you even former partners, but real life doesn't always follow those expectations. Many celebrities deliberately keep certain parts of their lives private. Some avoid commenting because they don't want to distract from someone else's moment. Others simply choose not to participate in public conversations about past relationships. Without a direct statement, it's impossible to know the reason in any individual case. Banjust. Still, that uncertainty is exactly what keeps people watching. Entertainment journalism has always balanced two powerful forces: public curiosity and verified reporting. Curiosity asks questions, reporting searches for evidence. The challenge is making sure those two don't become confused. That's why the most reliable entertainment coverage focuses on what can actually be confirmed: official announcements, public interviews, verified representatives, and on-the-record comments, while clearly separating those facts from online speculation. Looking back at this story, one thing stands out more than anything else. The conversation wasn't driven by conflict. It wasn't driven by a public argument. It wasn't driven by a shocking interview. It was driven by curiosity. Millions of people wanted to understand something that, at least publicly, had no confirmed explanation. And perhaps that's why this story resonated with so many viewers. It reminds us that, in today's media landscape, silence can become news, not because silence automatically means something dramatic, but because people naturally try to assign meaning to what they don't know. How? As this story gradually faded from the headlines, one lesson remained: not every unanswered question has a public answer. Sometimes the most responsible conclusion is also the simplest one. Until someone chooses to speak, the reasons behind a private decision remain exactly that: private. In the final chapter, we'll look at why stories like this continue to captivate audiences worldwide, and what they reveal about the relationship between celebrities, the media, and millions of fans who follow every major moment. As the headlines slowly began to fade, one thing became impossible to ignore. This story was never just about a wedding, and it wasn't simply about one person's public silence. It became a story about how celebrity news is created, shared, and interpreted in the age of social media. Today, millions of fans don't just consume entertainment news, they actively participate in it. Every interview, every photograph, every social media post, and even every missing reaction becomes part of a much larger conversation. Sometimes those conversations uncover meaningful insights. Other times, they remind us how quickly curiosity can outpace confirmed information. Throughout this story, one fact has remained consistent. Taylor Swift's wedding became a major entertainment headline, attracting enormous public attention and countless reactions from fans and media outlets around the world. At the same time, online discussions also focused on people connected to different chapters of her life, leading many fans to ask questions about reactions that never appeared publicly. Those questions were real, but the answers were not publicly confirmed, and that's an important distinction. The strongest stories are built on verified information, not assumptions about what someone may be thinking or feeling behind the scenes. Public silence, by itself, doesn't tell us why someone made that choice. It only tells us that they chose not to speak publicly. Whether that decision reflected privacy, respect, professional boundaries, or something else entirely is something only that individual could explain. I'll end. Until then, any explanation remains speculation. Perhaps that's the biggest lesson from this entire story. Blonde. Sometimes, the internet becomes fascinated by what isn't said. M. Deans. Sometimes an unanswered question becomes larger than the event that created it. And sometimes, the most honest conclusion isn't the most dramatic one. It's simply acknowledging what we know, what we don't know, and respecting the difference between the two. Beamed. As new celebrity stories continue to dominate headlines, this moment serves as a reminder that curiosity will always be part of entertainment culture. Bleed. But credibility comes from separating verified facts from online theories. And in a world where every headline travels across the globe in seconds, that distinction matters more than ever. Thank you for watching. Chanda. If you enjoyed this breakdown of one of the entertainment world's most talked about stories, don't forget to subscribe, turn on notifications, and let us know your thoughts in the comments. Means. What do you think drives more conversation in today's celebrity world? Public statements, or the moments when celebrities choose to remain silent?